So quickly, I want to explain the pyramid for those of you that may be a little bit confused or are wanting to learn more about the program. This program is new to Triangle Fraternity for the 2016-2017 year and was created in order to serve as a roadmap to our chapters and colonies and also put some measures of accountability in place and be very transparent and clear with our minimum expectations as a national organization. So the pyramid you can think of as a standards of excellence program, an accreditation program, just something that's going to measure where you are at as a chapter colony and the things that you need to work on. So this packet can be found online under programs at www.triangle.org, and it explains everything plus some that I'm going to go over with you today. So first, let's talk about the whole mission or background behind this program. So the pyramid is divided by the fraternity's code of ethics. So each criteria or expectation that your chapter or colony must fulfill falls under the theme of each code of ethics. The pyramid is broken up into 4 tiers. So this bottom and foundational tier is a national requirement. So these are things that we have identified as requirements as a chapter and colony that you must complete. And I'll talk about those later on in the training. The next tier, this 4th tier or the red tier, is the minimum expectations. So these are the things that you need to be doing in order to be functioning as a chapter or colony. And if we see that you are struggling and not meeting all these expectations, then that gives us a warning signal, or it highlights your organization so that we know we can provide you with additional resources and training and chapter visits. This 3rd tier, or the yellow tier, meets expectations. So that means that you're meeting all of the requirements and doing everything that you need to do, but there is room for improvement so that you can be a more successful chapter or colony in your operations. This 2nd tier, or the green tier, exceeds expectations. So this is for our chapters or colonies that are meeting all of the minimum requirements and then some. So they're really pushing themselves to go a step further. And chapters and colonies that fall in this 2nd tier, or the exceeds expectations, are eligible for National Fraternity Awards. And then finally, the top tier, or the apex, the blue tier, exceptional chapter operations. So you are exceeding expectations, and then you're even pushing yourselves a little bit further because you know that you have the structure in place, the events designed, whatever it may be. And so when you're in this tier, we actually recommend or encourage you to apply for the Judy and Larry Garatoni Building Better Men program. And I'm going to talk about how the fraternity awards and the Better Man program tie into this in a little bit. As you can see on this scoring, it talks about percentages and points, which I'm going to talk about next so that you understand. Okay, so the red tier, again, if we go back, that's meets minimum expectations. The yellow is meets expectations, green exceeds, and blue is exceptional. So this is just a sample, and this is focusing on academics. So the item that we're looking for is the average GPA. You are meeting minimum expectations if your chapter or colony average GPA is at a 2.7 or higher. You are meeting expectations, so it's just a step above if your chapter or colony GPA is at a 2.8 or higher. You are exceeding expectations if your chapter or colony average GPA is at a 3.0 or higher. And then you have you're doing exceptionally well if every chapter or colony member has a 3.0 or higher. So what you're looking at here is going to be the tracker, for lack of better words, for national staff members to identify where each of our chapters and colonies fall in all of these items. The pyramid is going to be replacing what you all know as the chapter efficiency report, which is what our ELCs would work on with you and then send to you after their visit. So this is very similar to the ELC report, obviously has a little bit of a facelift, but this is going to be how our consultants or staff members work with you to identify where you're doing a great job at, where you're struggling, where there's areas for improvement. And then you're actually going to get a copy of this 3 times a year so that you can use it to help guide your chapter operations. So as a staff member is going through and we're identifying where does the chapter fit, this is showing that, oh, okay, the chapter colony has an average GPA that's at a 3.0 or higher. So they actually are in the green tier. Campus comparisons is the next item. So as you can see, there's different criteria that increases for each tier. It looks like this chapter is in the blue tier, so we list that there. Educational programs, again, each requirement goes up a little bit, and they are at yellow. So each color represents a number of points. So if you go back up to here, green is 3 points, blue is 4 points, yellow 2, red 1. So they got 3 points here, 4 points, and then 2 points. We added them all up, and they got 9 out of 12, which gives a 75%. And if you look back up here, green exceeds expectations means that you fall in the 51 to 75 percentile. So for maintain a credible scholastic record, this chapter colony is in the green tier status. So this is what it's going to look like for every code of ethic that we judge. And then at the end, we would add up all of the possible points and then the total points of a chapter received. And that's how we would determine, are you a green tier chapter? Are you a blue tier chapter? And that will be our snapshots for at the end of the year. This individual scoring is really what's going to help you as an individual chapter colony and us as a staff member cater the resources and trainings to you based on your specific needs. This column right here, if it has this little like do not do or whatever you want to call it symbol, means not applicable. So there are going to be situations where you just don't have the structure in place to even meet that, and that's probably going to fall more in the housing category. So if you don't have a chapter facility, then you don't even have the foundation or the structure to complete that task. So we don't want to take points away from you because you didn't accomplish it. We would just not include those points in the total points. So that's what this column is. Okay. So just going to go over some frequently asked questions, and all this can be found online. Like I said, this takes over the place of the chapter efficiency program. You're going to receive this report 2 weeks after a visit, and then February 15th and July 15th of each year. And that way you can use this to kind of kick off your semester and get you prepared for what your goal setting or strategic plan is for the upcoming year. So where do you submit all this information at? A lot of it is going to be submitted via Triangle Connect, or what some of you know as Chapter Spot, because it's forms or information that you need to submit. And so we will literally just be tracking that stuff as it comes in and determining what tier you're in there. The other information is going to be identified through chapter visits. So an example would be, do you, like your ritual exemplification, are you training your members on that? What does that look like? And that will be conversations that a staff member or consultant is going to have with you, and we'll be able to identify where you fall there. Most of the information is scored objectively. So the red and yellow, which is your minimum expectations, that's going to be, did you do this, yes or no? But then as we start to get into the green and blue tiers, which are putting you up for national awards and putting you up for the Better Men program, it's going to be more subjectively. So an example of that would be, does the chapter have an academic plan in place that holds members accountable? So, well, one chapter or two chapters may both have an academic plan. We're going to start to look at, is it a fully comprehensive program? Is it meeting all of the requirements? So is it include incentives? Does it include standards? Does it include measures of accountability and programming? So that's when we start to say, they do have a program in place, but the program could be a little bit better. But that scoring is not going to take place until we start to get into the top tiers. How does this program tie into the Journey? So the Journey, which most of you may have heard of by now, is Triangle's 4-year member development program. And this is essentially a continuation of the new member experience so that our members continue engaging in membership development programs. The connections that can be made on this is the Journey has a lot of opportunities for individuals and chapters to do programming that meets all different types of needs: personal, professional, social, you name it. So by doing those programs, you're probably also completing some check boxes for the pyramid. So that's really how we explain how it ties in together. It's more of, if a chapter is participating in the Journey, then you want to make sure that you're not doing double the work, because everything you do for the Journey could probably count for the pyramid. So it's basically just helping you complete the Journey, is just helping you complete the pyramid. What happens if we don't fulfill the baseline expectation or national requirements? So the baseline expectations, or the Red Star criteria, are the pieces that the national fraternity and the staff identified as the minimum guidelines. So these are things that you must complete in order to function properly. Should you receive or fall in the red tier, that just signifies to us that we need to provide you with some additional support, whether it's on-site training or educational programming. The national requirements, so that black foundational level, are things that you must do in order to stay in good standing. Should you not complete those items, then you will be placed on an action plan with the National Standards Committee. So let's scroll down quickly to those requirements. Okay. So national forms are submitted by the listed deadlines. This is a must. So you will see on the forms and deadlines online, it says like your academic reporting form, your request to initiate, your notice of new members. Those all need to be submitted by the required deadline, and they are time stamped via Triangle Connect, so we know that when you're sending those in. Obviously, with this first year of transitioning onto Triangle Connect, we understand that not all the forms are going to meet deadlines, so this is something we're really going to start paying attention to in the spring semester. Chapter colony size is at 10 members, so if your chapter colony is not at 10 members, then that's something that signifies to us we just need to help you out a little bit more, so you'd be put on an action plan with the support from the national organization of how can we help you reach that 10-member count. Chapter colony has no violations through the new member period. That's pretty self-explanatory. Chapter and colony bills have been paid within 90 days or on a current payment plan. Your average GPA is at a 2.7 or higher. New members will have a 2.7 or higher in order to receive a bid. You submit the academic reporting form, and the chapter or colony will not have any risk violations. So these are pretty simple things you should be doing anyways, but should you not, that's just when we are notified to step in and help you a little bit more. So if we go back up to these frequently asked questions, what are the incentives of this program? People are probably wondering, why all of a sudden are we doing this? What isn't it for us? If you've been at any of our national events in the last year and a half, we've really tried to focus on this one triangle and creating some levels of accountability and consistency so that whether you are in California or in Pennsylvania, that we still have something that ties all of our chapters and colonies together and that you're all working towards the same goal. So by participating in the pyramid, you are going to be able to better identify where you're at as a chapter and what are the things you should be focusing on, because sometimes we get carried away in like the day-to-day monotonous tasks and we aren't really moving forward. So this will really help light a vision underneath your chapter or colony and help you identify like what are our priorities, what are the things we need to be working on so that we are aligning ourselves with the mission and the values of the national organization. Other incentives of this program, that in the past we would do the ELC efficiency reports, you would receive them as a chapter or colony, and then what would happen with it. So by doing the pyramid and by doing continuous follow-up, it's going to allow the national staff to work more, to collaborate with one another and say, okay, so I just visited ABC chapter, and this is the report. This is where they're at. They're struggling a little bit in recruitment. And so then they can have a conversation with me, and I can help create some resources or educational programmings that will meet the needs of the chapter. So this is really going to help you get more support from the national organization. It's going to help us be able to work with you more closely, and not just 2 times a year in your chapter visits, but 365 days a year. So I think that we will see a lot of our chapters and colonies increase their membership, increase their GPAs, increase their chapter operations, and overall just increase the member experience. So as you continue through this packet, this breaks down again the scoring for each tier and a description, and then it goes right into each of the Code of Ethics judging criteria. So everything is laid out for you. It's very clear. It's very transparent so that you can see, okay, these are the things that we are going to be scored on. And as chapter leadership, you can determine, like, I think that we actually could go for the green tier. We're doing this stuff anyways, or maybe we're just about there. So let's put the structures and goals in place to help us get to the green tier. So I would really recommend, as a chapter, spending a couple hours and going through this and kind of guessing where you may fall in each category, and either saying, okay, that's what we're going to aim for, or let's aim for a tier higher. Definitely, at the least, you need to identify what all of the bottom criterias or expectations are so that you can make sure that you're fulfilling those. So like I said, each tier broken down, the items, criteria, and then how it increases by tier, and then you'll see the total possible points. So because we're only judging one item in this first Code of Ethics, it's only out of 4 points, because 4 is the highest you can get in this blue tier. Some Code of Ethics are going to have several items. Some are only going to have one, like we just saw above. It's not to say that one is more important than the other. It's just being realistic with what your chapters or colonies are spending a majority of your time on. A lot of this stuff is things that you have been doing for years now, and things that we have talked about in the chapter efficiency reports, things that your campuses are probably requiring you to do. So while it looks like a lot of information and maybe overwhelming just to view it at first, you're doing all of this, or you should be. But I would still recommend going through just to kind of get a grasp on everything. So new member retention, recruitment, diversity, recruitment education. Again, a lot of the stuff you're already doing. Attendance at national events, ongoing member development, philanthropy and service. So literally every important piece of the fraternity experience is being covered in here. One thing I should add is that if you go to the national website and if you go to events and programs, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you're going to see a little icon that is a pyramid with an exclamation point. And that's just signifying that participating in that event or program is actually one of the items in this program that you need to fulfill. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you to know, oh, hey, I need to send representatives to the Catalyst Regional Meeting because that's actually one of the criterias in the pyramid. So while we do our best at identifying those things, I would really encourage you to go through and see what are the things that you're required to do, and then put it on your event calendar so that you can make sure you're there. Like some include the online educational programming, sending delegates to LTW and convention, so things that you can plan ahead for. So I understand that this program may seem like a lot, and with any new program, there comes a learning curve. So all the staff members, myself, Gary, CJ, we're here to assist you. Should you get tied up with something? Should you be confused? Should you say, like, we really want to aim for the blue tier so that we can be eligible for the Judy and Larry Garatoni Better Man program to win $100,000? We're here to help you and assist you and create an action plan that will get you to the point that you want to be at.